in there, especially, and then they're snoring.
All right, and we are back with the Blame Girl podcast with
Mr. Terry Wayne.
And we got Robb Kalert in the house. What up, Robb?
Hey.
Robb, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was fun. Eventful a little bit.
Uneventful? What did you do?
No, eventful. Well, it's just a wild night of comedy on when did I do that? Was it Saturday night? I was in the Lilo show, which is,
Oh, I love library.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Sounds like he was about to trash it.
Well, no. It's hot and cold, man. But this weekend was a rough one. I've had a blast there before, so I'm not trashing Lilo.
Why was there no crowd, or why was it so rough?
Yeah, very little crowd, and the crowd that was there was just, they rowdy and they didn't know how to be an audience. One of those. And when it's a small crowd and they don't know how to be an audience, it's tough to do comedy. But it was a good time.
Is that all you did this weekend?
Oh no! I had my kids were sick, so this weekend, so that was fun. I had to deal with that. But before that, I had Friday night. We had a sleepover, so I had like a bunch of little dudes at my house, and we were
that's how they got sick.
Probably, eating junk food and running around. But as chaotic as it is, I love it. It gives me a chance to be a kid. We're building forts and doing s'mores outside and camping out in the backyard and stuff like that. So it was a good time. So.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Terry, how was your weekend?
Pretty uneventful. Still trying to get everything together here for the big move coming in March. And
the only person I've met that starts moving like 4 months in advance.
Well, it's a lot of stuff to get done, trying to get done.
I guess. I mean, I don't think it took me 4 months when I moved states. But I guess I didn't have it.
4 months.
Where are you moving, Terry?
You've been moving Nashville. For since
Nashville? Oh, I love it there. That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Yeah. It's just too expensive down here now. It doesn't make any sense to. Yeah, doesn't make any sense because I want to go back to owning my house. I hate this renting stuff. It's been long enough. It's been like 5 years now I've been renting. So, and I don't want to buy anything down here because it's just too volatile. The prices are the prices are way too high for what for what you're getting, and it's just not a good investment. In my opinion. If you already owned your home before this, like that's why I told my sister last year, I was like, you need to sell and move. And she did. And she ended up making quite a bit of money, about $250,000 on it.
Yeah, so. I'm selling my house right now, and it's worth about 4 times as much as it was when I got it. So it's
right. But that's also what they call a real estate bubble.
Yeah,
and it's gonna pop. So
yep. Well, my dad's my real estate agent, so what's that, Gio? Sorry.
What you gonna do after you sell it?
Buy another house in the same area, just a lot cheaper. Fix that up, do the same thing to it.
So
divorces are expensive.
Great. I would love to be able to buy a house, but like today on my way here, I was like, should I just ask like my girlfriend, like, let's go in on a house? Because it's like, I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't make a huge financial purchase with a friend or family. That's my advice.
Why? It's like people invest like that. They buy houses together and flip them. So I don't know. But anyway, my weekend.
You all better be real tight then.
My weekend was a lot of fun. I hosted at the Boca Black Box all weekend. I got to meet Alicia Simmons Miracle, who we're gonna get on the show soon. She is a comedian, but also an actress. She was on Claws and NCIS, New Orleans, and she's very funny. So I had a good time, like networking and working, basically. So, and then Sunday I did adulting. I cleaned, put away my Christmas stuff, So, are y'all ready to do some blaming?
Oh, yes, please.
Sure.
He said, yes, please.
Hey
Mm.
Terry,
You want to
hey
get to
Terry,
these hot
hey Terry, let's rock and roll, baby.
takes?
I love it.
Nails
Go.
on a chalkboard is what
Let's
that
go.
is.
Why, Terry?
I don't know. There's something about that phrase. Let's rock and roll. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an 80s kid. I don't know.
All right. So this is not rock and roll, first of all. A 6-year-old shot their teacher last week after an altercation. Who's to blame, guys?
She should have listened to the 6-year-old's commands. You know, she should have just complied.
I know this is
Isn't that,
America.
isn't that the go-to excuse?
Oof. Oh man, that kid's parents are 100% to blame, man. The hell is how's a 6-year-old get a gun? You know what I mean? Like, especially a pistol, you know, which is so
Yeah.
easily locked up. It's so easy to lock them up. It's so they you know, cases are less than $100 now, you know, lock boxes. It's so
Robb,
easy.
real quick, turn your phone the other way for me.
Don't tell me how to live my life. All right. Here we go.
Much better. Okay, so you have children. Do you have guns?
I got rid of all my guns when I became a father.
Oh, okay.
But it's now time. Now I've brought them back in the house. The kids don't even know it yet. You know what I mean? They're just not even old enough. One's
Probably
7. One's
good that they don't know. You know?
what's that? Yeah. Well, not yet, because you know. And then when it's time to teach them how, you know, then you teach them, and you teach them to be responsible. And
What age do you think you should start teaching them?
well, I have an agreement in my divorce where I'm not allowed to teach them until a certain age, which is about, I think, 13. So unfortunately, but
Oh, is that why you got rid of the guns, because of the divorce? Did they make you get rid of the guns, or you decided?
no, well, no, I mean, I got rid of the guns well before I got divorced. You know, I got them when I found out that, not that I had like a arsenal or anything like that, but I do, you know, I'm not like Mr. Gun Nut, but at the same time, you know, I do, you know, I think it's smart.
No one's judging you over here. We're just
No,
asking.
no, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to like, but yeah, man, I think it's absolutely insane that a 6-year-old was not only able to grab a gun, but put it in their backpack and bring it to school. So it's just,
I think what got me about this story is like there was an altercation. Usually when a 6-year-old has a gun and it discharges in a classroom, it's an accident. But it sounds like this kid is learning some fucking, not even just the parents because they had access to the gun, but they're learning some poor behaviors about conflict resolution. You know what I mean?
I read too that it was that the teacher saw the child with a gun, showing it to his friends, and went over to take it from the child, and that's when she got shot. So there, I don't think that we can really. I don't know. It's hard to talk on it until you find out really what happened. You know what I mean? Like they do an actual proper investigation, but I don't know. That could have been an old article or something like that I read. But
I just
yeah,
I mean, they could describe an altercation as just about anything. You know, they could have been just a teacher reaching out trying to grab it. And, you know,
yeah.
that's what
an altercation.
Apparently that's what happened. That's when she got shot, is when she tried to take the gun away from the kid. But if it was just a kid could come in there blasting, then yeah, that's just an evil kid, man.
Yeah, no,
like,
I mean,
but especially blasting because they don't like the teacher. That's like terrifying to imagine a bunch of little 6-year-olds. Now that's
where if you're looking for that, that's where your mind's naturally going to get drawn to. When in all likelihood, it was probably an accidental discharge. Like could be, but I'm with Rob here. You got to blame the parents. You know, I grew up with guns. My father had a whole gun case, but he taught us early about it. And they were visible because it had like a glass front on it. Like it was like a decorative case. It was locked, but still, like if you really wanted it, small little.
What's interesting to me is like that's consistent for Americans, American men throughout the country, white American men specifically. Because I mean, I didn't really grow up with young Black American men where they were teaching them guns in my household, but I'm sure there are households like that as well. But I think it's just, you know, we teach kids about guns so young, we use them. It's just an
Well,
American thing. It's very American to use guns.
it can, well, I mean, it can be, if you're going to have them in the house, it's very, I just personally believe it can be very beneficial to teach them what a gun is, teach them respect for it, and put fear into them over it, you know,
Definitely.
because yeah, when you put the fear into it, into them over it, it teaches them that respect of like, oh, this isn't for me to fuck around with. This is a real, like,
It
and that's
also
all it
takes
took
away the
was
curiosity aspect too. It also takes away that
exactly.
curiosity where
Yeah.
they're like curious, they want to see it, they want to hold it. It's this thing that they see on TV and it's right there in dad's drawer or whatever like that. It takes all that away, you know?
I gotta
Yeah,
say,
I mean, it really only took one. It took only one trip to the gun range with my dad when I was young. I was probably 6 or 7, and I think, I mean, I know we talked about it later as an adult, but he's like, yeah, I picked every of the loudest, biggest calibers I could find and took you there and let you watch me. And he's like, you were terrified, and he's like, that's what I wanted. I wanted you to be terrified.
it's just weird to me that that's a thing. Like I remember learning, and I've said this plenty of times on this podcast. I have this friend, CA Shields in Texas, and he had a nephew, and they like bought his nephew a gun at 6, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? But that's like common. That's totally common that people do that.
Well, that's for hunting though, I'm guessing.
I got, yeah, no, my dad.
I'm guessing it was a 22 hunting rifle probably, right? You know, and that's.
I got my first when I was 8.
Well, we got Jason in the house. Jason, when did you get your first gun? He said that.
And no, it wasn't a 22. It was a just a pellet gun. And then
yeah.
And then at 10, I got the 22.
That I should listen to Rob for advice.
On what?
And,
boxing?
yeah.
Gun ownership?
And he says, teach Blame and Terry how to be responsible with tools and kitchen implements. Ooh, Terry, can you believe he said that to you? Kitchen implements.
Anybody's allowed to be
out of line for that. I gotta say.
Well, I mean, I did own a restaurant and got out with all 10 fingers, so I'm pretty sure I'll be all right in the kitchen.
What kind of restaurant did you own?
It was an Italian restaurant in Memphis.
Nice.
Yeah.
He ain't even Italian. I'm just kidding, but he makes some good Italian food. He does. I got to say.
I appropriated the culture.
He did. You know who has no culture? To me, is Idaho. It's very cultureless, but I want to talk about it nonetheless.
Ain't never been to Idaho, have you?
No.
I think they have their own culture for sure. It's just
I love Idaho potatoes a lot. You know,
my brother lived in Idaho. He lived in Des Moines and or a small section outside of Des Moines. And he said he had to move because so many people from California kind of migrated there.
Like Austin, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he described it just like Austin. He's like, I had to leave. It got too expensive.
Yeah. So we're drawn back to these Idaho murders this week, guys. I'm sorry you got to put up with me because it has been consuming me. It's all I pay attention to, and then a couple of news articles on the side. Shut up, Terry. All right. As you know, last week they caught a suspect, Brian Koberger, right? And we were like, oh, we can't wait for the PC affidavit. It came out last week, and it has the internet going nuts. Who's to blame, guys?
Women. Women and your constant murder fetishes. Every woman I have ever known, if they're even flipping through anything and they see like the killer of the thing or the rapist of the woman or whatever, if it's mayhem or murder, or they just have to stop and watch it. You know, that show Snapped wasn't made for men. That was specifically targeted.
That's the most terrifying show on the planet because every one of them love it and they're all taking notes.
Yeah.
You ever watch one of those shows with your wife or girlfriend and she's just like, oh, well, that's because they didn't hide the body well enough, or they should have just took the fingers off and took the teeth out, and then they would have never been able to identify the human. You're like, what?
Taking notes in her phone. You don't even know.
But they're thinking about it.
I think what I think it is, because y'all clearly don't know anything about it. it released a lot of information we didn't expect. And I feel like for me, and I'm not victim shaming, the biggest thing was that if you should know by now, but if you don't know, there were 4 kids in a house of 6 that were murdered overnight. There were 2 people who weren't touched, and they didn't call the cops until 11:30 the next morning, right? But we find out from the probable cause affidavit that one roommate heard things, she saw the killer, and she still didn't call the cops until the next morning after they called friends over. And there were 4 bodies in the house. So I think that's personally for me what has the internet going nuts. We did not expect that type of information to be in that probable cause affidavit. And
But
it,
that sounds, how does that not sound like a house filled with college age kids, you know? Like,
you think
that,
that it's
oh, they didn't call the
perfectly-
cops till 11:30? You mean somebody didn't wake up till like 10:30 the next day? That's crazy, you know?
But they
Of course they
heard,
didn't.
but they heard everything and they saw the killer. And yeah, they didn't call anyone till the next day at 11:30.
Hmm.
That doesn't.
Well, again,
weird.
you tend to find what you go looking for. So if you're looking for controversy and scandal, then you're probably gonna find it.
I don't know. It just it doesn't sit right with me. What did you think about this story, Rob?
Well, I'm thinking about it right now because this is the first I've heard of it because I don't watch. I got rid of all my channels and everything. I don't watch TV anymore, so I don't see the news much.
You didn't look at the notes?
I didn't see this one on the notes. I saw the 15
Oh, this is her
times to get
favorite.
15 times to get elected. I saw a kid shoot everything out. I did not see this, and maybe I looked over it, but no, I apologize.
That's her favorite. It's about the murders.
So I just can't
No.
give an educated response, Gio. To be honest with you, I'm
What-
sorry. I'm
But when
useless.
you say they heard things, what do you mean? They heard people?
You didn't
and
even bother
knew
to
that-
read the affidavit, Terry?
I did. I read the article. I didn't read the affidavit.
Oh, I read that affidavit the moment it came out.
I'm sure
It
you
was
did.
like,
I'm sure it's
I
the
have
first
no,
thing you did.
I
in the
have no
morning.
doubt that that's true, Gio. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
They're all over that affidavit, but in the affidavit, she says that she saw a black hooded figure with bushy eyebrows. She opened her door 3 times because she heard one of the roommates say someone's here, and then she heard someone say like whimpering, like crying, and something else. And she opened her door 3 times, saw the dude, and I don't know what her excuse is, but the police haven't arrested her. She's not a suspect or anything. But with
Was she
that said,
simply just
it's
terrified?
funny because this case has had the internet already going nuts. Web sleuths, they're like trying to solve it and all this stuff. And she's already like, they accuse so many people of this stuff, like all these college kids, frat boys, roommates, and then they come out with a suspect and everyone's like, see, it was this guy, right? And then we find out in the affidavit all this stuff about what the roommate actually did, how she handled it. And then you've got the crowd that's like, you are victim blaming her for not calling the police. But I personally don't think it is. As a legal person, I'm going to be like, why the fuck didn't this bitch call the police sooner?
Was she terrified?
Wow.
Was she like frozen in fear?
No,
Was she like
I
shut up in her
guess.
room? Like, that could happen.
I don't know.
I don't think. I mean, because there's only 2 explanations, right? Either she heard some things and just said, oh, it's whatever, because again, you don't know their day-to-day lives, maybe. And these are all young people in the house together. I'm sure it got loud as hell all the time. So just hearing some things, but a person's natural response, if they know people are getting murdered in the other room, is to flee so that they don't get murdered themselves.
There's a lot of people that are supporting her.
So she's
saying
either
that-
in on it, did it, or what she's saying is accurate and being like, oh, I didn't think anything of it, just went to sleep.
She either real stupid or I don't know. But like I just, it just doesn't sit well with me. And then also I watch a lot of this stuff. What also doesn't sit well with me is the DNA technology they use to identify this guy. And then also the phone pings. Like, that's not a solid source of evidence. So what it takes to arrest someone is not the same as what it's going to take to convict someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all these circumstantial things that are like, okay, maybe it was him. But then it's not that I don't think it was him. I just think that maybe he did not act alone. Because the timeline seems very tight for him to be able to kill 4 people in 15 minutes, and one of them being a dude, and somebody fought back, you know.
I
So
could easily kill 4 people in 15 minutes. Are you kidding me?
yeah,
No,
but you're a
quick.
trained military professional. Like, that's different. They could argue that, yeah.
Terry
but-
could do it too, especially if there were unsuspected murder victims. You could do it. Terry could do it. I could do it. 15
Yeah.
minutes is a long time.
He did it in their
Yeah.
sleep, or
Yeah.
like while they were like, it was like 4 a.m. I don't know that
Room
they
to
were-
room, you know?
So
That
Yeah.
Bundy made a career out of it.
nonetheless, it's just got a lot of people questioning the strength of the affidavit, the roommate's testimony. There was a blank page randomly. It was weird, but you know what
There's always going to be speculation, and whenever a case gets a high profile and people start getting interested, there's always going to be speculation. You know, we're still going back to what's her Casey Anthony all these years later. You know,
Yeah.
they just came out. You were just telling me about that thing, which I couldn't even watch. I tried to watch it, and I was like, ugh.
I think anybody who
a lot of people feel that way, but I didn't grow up here in Florida. I remember the case, and I wasn't like one of the people that was like, I hate this lady. She didn't get convicted, but when I saw that, I empathized with her, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I know that police officers and law enforcement can be some fucking good old boys that don't do their work right. That's why I'm like hesitant to just convict this guy in the court.
she
of public-
fucking duct taped her baby and buried it in her yard and then undug it up and then
You know
buried
who
it
used
somewhere
to
else.
duct tape things that were dead in their family, their dad. So that was
Okay.
his custom. That's what he did when the dogs died and this died or that died. So I'm just saying,
When her fucking
even her
still
brother
took a month.
corroborated that. I
This is
think
her
she's
child.
telling the truth.
Still took a
And then
still
she
took a
lied,
month
and then she lied to
report it.
authorities, made up a fake babysitter. Man, fuck that woman, man.
Yeah,
I
no,
hope
she
she
did.
dies in
Hey.
traffic.
Did that, and she admits to that. I mean, she was
Rob,
fucking.
if
What?
if one of your kids went missing tomorrow, how long would it take you to report it?
Dude, I'm busting every door down in my neighborhood. After
Would
I
it
call
take
the
a month?
But what if your parent is telling you not to report it, that she's fine?
Then you are an accessory after the fact, and you go to
Gio,
jail.
I
Gio,
accept that.
Gio, she went out to the club that night while her
And let me
baby's
just-
in her
Let me
trunk
just
dead.
say, she
Her
is the-
baby is duct taped in her
she
trunk.
was
and she
around
goes,
the same age as
All
this
right.
girl. But listen, she's the same age around the age of the girl that was the roommate that didn't call the police. So maybe 22-year-olds are just fucking stupid.
I
Rob, you
can't.
got to understand, if there's even the slimmest possibility that a man did something and the woman was innocent, Gio's probably going to lean that way.
No
So-
shit.
I'm telling
dude,
you,
she
those cops were some
buried
good
her
old
kid,
boys.
undug it up, and then buried it again. Like what?
Good old boy. Y'all just too trusting the law enforcement. That's all. I'm not.
This has
Who
nothing to
trusting
do
the
with
law
law.
You
enforcement?
wonder why.
You're the one that just said, I don't know about convicting this guy on this circumstantial evidence. You're the one that's saying, let him go now, you know?
I didn't say let him go. Calm down. I
Mm.
said I think he's probably involved. I just don't know how. I don't think he did it alone.
Mm.
But anyway,
She's an attractive white woman in America. Who can trust law enforcement more than her? Just
The
saying.
man's got a point.
we're
Fuck
back on
Casey Anthony. I hope she sees this podcast one day and understands that you're a murderous cunt. Excuse my language, but screw that. No, forget that, man. I'm sorry. Gio,
You touched a
are you on
nerve.
drugs?
Why don't you watch the special and then talk to me? But you're not
I
going to
will- hold on.
empathize with a
I
woman
refuse-
being abused, and you're not going to empathize with cops not knowing how to do their fucking job right, because they did not do their job right. They didn't even try to find out if it was the dad or not. They didn't try.
Where
He
the
was
fuck
in
did
the house
me?
too, bitch.
Where did I come in and say I'm not empathetic of women being abused? Do you have any idea how empathetic you see this
Go
scratch
watch
right
the
here?
special.
All right.
That was from me
Let's-
dragging somebody out of the bar the other night who was abusive of his girl. That's where his scratches all coming
You're
from.
a stand-up guy. You're a gentleman. But I'm just saying, maybe even Casey Anthony needs some empathy. Okay. It's
No,
weird that I'm
no,
willing to
she
give
doesn't.
Casey Anthony the empathy, but not Dylan, the roommate.
I'll tell you what, she'll get empathy when somebody duct tapes her dead body and buries it in their front yard. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I look, Gio, I watched the thing you told me to watch.
You didn't watch it all.
I did.
last-
My eyes were rolling half the time because it kind of sounded. You remember when R. Kelly got interviewed by Gail Weathers or whoever, and tried to play himself off as the victim? That's what she was doing in this case. She was saying, "How could I be the perpetrator when I'm the victim?" You know, that's what it was. I mean, seriously, if your kid goes missing, you don't wait a month. You know,
Well, you didn't even
and you
wait a month.
don't help.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
you
a
don't help,
consensus now.
and you don't help cover it up, and you don't. No, it's
Yeah.
you're trying to push water uphill here.
She said she was okay, whatever. She has a lot
Of course, she said she didn't
yeah,
say
but
any
so
of
do a
this
lot of therapists
years ago.
Anyway,
She's had a lot of years to come up with
This
a
is-
great story.
I'll tell you.
I
this is
unsubscribed.
the topic. I mean, I'll tell you, I think it was the dad. I think he was an abuser. I think he molested Casey, and then I would think he was trying to molest the girl, and he ended up killing her because he liked putting pillows over their heads.
Well,
Dude, what?
then
And if it's easier to vilify the mom, go ahead and do that.
What?
Right.
she, it's not
Well,
vilifying the mom.
We're
She
gonna
had a-
go. We're
she had
gonna
a
go.
hand in that, one way or the other.
We're gonna go on to the last Monday while we were doing the podcast. Probably the world, the United States, witnessed Damar Hamlin suffer from a cardiac arrest during a live televised game. Guys, who's to blame?
I don't think anybody's
Man, that was such a freak incident. Because from what I heard about it, it was from physical trauma where he got hit in the chest in just the right spot at just the right time to cause that cardiac arrest. I don't think anybody's to blame necessarily, but
freak
I think
accident.
some people on the medical team for the Bills should be commended for keeping him alive until the ambulance got there, by recognizing that this wasn't just an injury, this was a medical emergency,
100%.
and immediately starting chest compressions and continuing to circulate that blood. And it's literally the only reason he's still alive.
Yeah,
Did you hear-
If it wasn't for them, he'd be dead.
You hear what the Bills organization is doing for him is he has just like most players, a thing in his contract saying if he gets put on the injured reserve, you know, his pay goes down drastically, you know, and he'll still get paid, but drastically, but they're honoring his full contract until he comes back, or if he doesn't come back, they're going to honor the entire contract.
Oh wow.
So that he's still making all that money. It's like a $3.75 million 4-year contract. But I'll be honest, man, a lot of these things that happen, you know, I had a friend that I went to high school with, and he was a varsity basketball player. I mean, the healthiest guy, just, you know, big, jack, shredded black dude, you know what I mean? Like athlete of athletes, you know, and the year after he graduated high school, he's playing rec ball and he dropped dead of a heart attack because he had an undiagnosed heart condition that just nobody knew about. And there's no way to know about it unless you just run a slew of tests, but he never had a reason to because he never had issues. And that happens with athletes a lot more than we realize. So it's like something like this is just, man, there's no one to blame for it. It's just a horrible, unfortunate accident.
The blame is more like why are people having to watch this live? Like that's so scary.
Because it's real. What are we
that.
supposed to? What are we supposed to? You know, shelter everybody from the realities that I mean, that was real and it was live television. Well, you know what I mean? And that happens. I mean, I remember
you left a lot of people thinking like, did I just watch someone die? Is that the price playing, like watching live football? Like, yeah, you might watch someone lose their life.
You're lucky that it's as mild as it is now, because that Eagles player back in the day, the whole country watched him get paralyzed right there on the field. Yeah.
How about Joe Theismann?
Unfortunately, you know, you're playing that kind of game. bad things can happen. And it
We've seen goalies get their throats sliced open. We've seen Joe Theismann get his shin snapped into a triangle, and we've seen like it's just one of those things. But it's just reality, and to shelter us all from something like that is just, I mean, I don't think that's the answer, but it's at the same time, like what, and in a situation like that, it's like hindsight's 2020. It's like, maybe later after the fact, we're like, okay, maybe we should have went to, some sort of intermission or commercial. But at the time, it's like, Jesus Christ, what do you do?
It's a stadium full of people watching the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's scary and I think maybe for me, it's like touching me a little close because I almost saw someone die recently and it fucking shook me. And I'm like, I don't want to see that ever again, so. But
What are you talking about?
I saw someone overdose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got desensitized to that pretty early.
Yeah.
I saw somebody overdose when I was like 18.
Yeah, because you worked as an EMT, but
no, that was before that.
I'm a sheltered baby, and I don't want to see stuff like that,
I had that happen at the office. Kind of
stuff I don't want to see, guys. I don't want to see it take 15 fucking votes to get our Speaker of the House elected. Who's to blame?
I think who's to blame on this one. It's the far right wing nuts. And the fact that McCarthy complied and gave in at all to any of their demands is really, really infuriating to me. It really makes me very disappointed, very sad at the state of the country's political climate. Just because, why would any member of Congress want to, tear apart the congressional ethics oversight committee? Why would anybody want that unless you had planned on doing something
unethical, right?
Yeah. So just the fact that of the stuff that they wanted and got, just because they stomped their foot on the floor and said, well, we're not going to let the House of Representatives do its job until we get stuff that we want out of this.
They almost held it hostage.
Almost about it. They definitely held it hostage.
This happens every couple of years in form of the government. There's always something like this where they hold the Senate or the House or something like that hostage until they get what they want. No. Normally it's the debt ceiling is what they do. This has never happened like this. Brutal. Yeah.
This hasn't happened since like the Civil War. So the debt ceiling they're always negotiating about, and it's usually whoever's not in power holding up the show. So but no, it's quite disheartening. Especially because it's the same party. It's not Democrats and Republicans fighting. It's Republicans fighting with fringe Republicans. So there is quite a civil war.
It was interesting to see, someone almost hit Matt Gaetz. Did you see that, Terry?
Yeah.
I liked it.
Of course you did. And why isn't he in jail, by the way?
I don't know.
Didn't he hire underage prostitutes and then,
he did
take them across state lines, which technically counts as human trafficking, but
now he's able to hold our Congress hostage. It's just crazy to me, but Rob, you don't have any more thoughts?
I do. I was just waiting my turn.
What do you think?
No, honestly, I just everything you guys said. Yeah, that's all correct, but I just think it's deeper than that. It's just our political climate sucks in this country right now. It's just turned into a sports game. My team versus your team. No matter what your team does or says, it's wrong because it's not what my team does or says. And it's on both sides. And it's just like two people pointing the finger at each other saying, you know what I mean? And it's just nothing ever gets done now because if the Republicans put something through, the Democrats fight it, no matter what it is, no matter if it makes sense or not, you know what I mean? And vice versa, and if the Dems do and it's turned into this West Side story of a country that we have. It's the Sharks versus the Jets. And that's the way they want it. You know what I mean? Because it keeps us all stupid, young, the non-elites. It keeps us all fighting amongst each other. It keeps everybody fighting. It keeps everybody at wits. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's just gross, and it's turned into this just playground of immaturity. You know what I mean? Like at our highest level.
Where
And
do
I don't
you
think
think that started?
oh man, well, it's, when you only have two parties, you only have two sides, it's eventually going to turn into this. It's just going to snowball into this. And
I
the
think it
fact that we
started.
have, go ahead.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I think it just started with the Tea Party. That's where the far fringe right started, and it's gotten to be this.
No,
We
the
already-
first George W. Bush was the last president that was allowed to just be president. Because if you look at every president after that, you look at Bill Clinton, they tried to get him out of office over the lying under oath about the blowjob thing. If you look at George W. Bush, they were trying the same thing over the war and the invasion of Iraq and all that. Then you look at
Nuclear
Obama,
weapons,
like,
weapons of mass
he's not-
destruction.
You look at Obama, and it's like, oh, he's not even from this country. Then you look at all the stuff Trump did. Now you look at Biden, who got elected, and before he was even elected, before he was even inaugurated, you had members of Congress saying, oh, we're figuring out how to impeach him before he's even president.
And how much of our money are they spending on these
A lot,
campaigns?
a shit ton.
They're spending all of our money, and it's like billions of dollars to try to impeach presidents. You're not going to impeach. It's not going to happen. And it's nothing, and it's never over anything remotely, it's always over hearsay or bullshit or whatever. The president got a blowjob. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Well, he did lie.
so-
He did lie to Congress under oath, which is now just the thing to do.
Yeah.
He can't even go to jail for it anymore.
Of course he did, though. What is he gonna do? Like, yeah, she blew me in the Oval Office. Of course he lied about it.
I think the Koch brothers definitely started that with their libertarian madness. And that was the beginnings of it. I think you might be a little bit right on that, Terry. All right, I'm tired of talking about politics. I want to get to know our guests. Welcome, Robb, Kalert, for your first time.
This is the double hand wave. It's underrated.
Who's to blame? Why is this your first time on? I couldn't believe you hadn't been on yet.
He has been on.
I've never been on this podcast. Never once.
What?
100%. Never once.
You're to blame, Terry.
I guess. I thought he'd been on here before, like 2 years ago.
Nope.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I promise.
So did
I've been on 2 South Florida comedy podcasts. That's it. And one of them isn't. Neither of them are even around anymore. So,
well, this one's around, and you're on here, so welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. I can't
Let's get my feelings hurt a little bit, It's
give us. I think it's because we both thought you had been on already.
It's all right.
Like when I drafted the prep, I did it like you had been on. I was like, what are we gonna talk about with Robb this time?
I get it, Gio. We all look alike. I get it.
Wow.
Terry's in charge of booking. It's not.
He just went for the throat right there in the
I
beginning.
did, man. I know the sensitive buttons to push, I've known
Sure.
Gio for a long
right.
time now.
So how long have you been doing comedy?
God, it's a little over 4.5 years. I think
How did you get started?
I've always been in entertainment. I always I used to, I was in music and acting and everything for a long time. But I always loved comedy and always wanted to do it. I just never really had the chance. I was in the military for, 7.5 years. I was always traveling around. I just really didn't know how to get into it. You know what I mean? Which ultimately is all I had to do is kind of inquire on the internet, but I never did that. But one day I worked in downtown West Palm Beach, and I was separating from my ex or whatever, and I was just like, you know what, like I'm gonna go do all the things now that I really always wanted to do that I was never allowed to do and things like that. So
Why
I was
is it
like,
that we wait to get divorced to do that stuff? You got to do that stuff while you're married. It might keep you happy.
I was never allowed to. I had to go to work and come home. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And I was always, I don't want to get into all that, but 'cause that's
Yeah.
no one- but so all I knew about comedy was okay, the Improv, they do stand-up comedy. So let me look on their website. And I looked on their website and I found New Faces. And I signed up and I showed up and I did New Faces. That was the first time I ever did comedy. I did New Faces comedy at the Improv.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I showed up. I
How
was
did
like,
it go?
I mean, in hindsight, now that I look, I can't even watch it. You know what I mean? It's awful, but I got laughs. You know, it went as well as it could go for your first time. But I remember I was like trying to write all these jokes and everything, and I just hated them, and I was just like, oh my god, this is gonna be so embarrassing because you have to bring people. So I brought a bunch of people from work, first time ever doing it, and then on my way there, on my drive there, I came up with an entire new bit and a whole new concept, and I did it. And I don't know if you remember when I first started comedy, I used to do this bit about the show Paw Patrol. It's like because that's all I knew. I had little kids or whatever, so I just went on there and I shit all over this show, and all the parents loved it. And but that's how I got started in comedy. And then I signed up for every New Faces for the next like 5-6 months. I signed up for every single one of them. And then but after like the second one, I met Adam Kay, and he booked me on that show, the Elizabeth Ave show. And then I started going to, Jackie's open mic, and then she booked me on her show. Lalo booked me on his show. So it steamrolled pretty quick for me. I started getting booked relatively early.
Yeah, that sounds really quick. It's like you started and then you were getting, that's why I was like, what? Because it took me, and I took classes. It took me I took the classes for like 3 months, and then I started hitting the mics and in like February, and then by that summer I had gotten my first booking, but I was already kind of going to open mics. Well, just really backstage. That's the only one I knew about. And then
backstage, I did the first time I did backstage. Jackie booked me for her showcase, and then Lalo booked me for his. He had that. For everybody listening, it's Jackie Sanchez and Lalo Rodriguez, two very funny, talented comedians in South Florida. But they booked me for their showcases, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll show up and do it. And then it just every new mic I did, I was getting booked by whoever was there. So it was fun. It was exciting. It was great. And then that's
popular. I'm just kidding. So
not anymore. I'm not. Bookers, book your guy.
So what's been your favorite venue to perform at? And you can't say
the Improvs.
Yeah, because that's given. Those are magical.
Yeah. Everyone would say it. Yeah.
Man, there's so many good ones. It was cool. Recently, I got to, it's definitely not the best venue that I've ever been at, but it was definitely cool to be at the Creek in the Cave in Austin recently. I did that. I got to do like 12 minutes there. And so that was fun. Just knowing, how, who goes on that stage every week and everything like that. I got to rub elbows with some cool people there. But down here, I would have to say, the Sunrise is great. The Sunrise Theater in Fort Pierce. As far as like little hole in the wall spots, man, I miss Robot. That was a great spot. But I don't know, man. I think it's hard to remember. I just like doing theaters and like actual clubs and places with ceilings on it. My actual favorite? Well, obviously any comedy clubs I love, the Improvs or anything like that.
You can say Robot, that's fine. Just because it ain't there anymore.
Anything with a stage and a room and like places where people pay money to come see comedy, and it's that's all I give a shit about.
Yeah.
I think Red Light is a really, really cool room. I just I don't know. I think it'd be, if it was used a little bit differently, I think it could be epic.
Where have you traveled to do comedy?
Austin, Houston, Chicago, Atlanta, obviously all through Florida.
Nice.
I think as far as out of state, yeah, I think that's it. Out of state. Those are the only places.
Do you have a favorite out of state venue?
Well, yeah, I'd have to say Austin. The Creek was pretty cool, just because it was. It's
Creek in the Cave, yeah.
Yeah, it's shitty. It's run down or whatever like that, but it's just there's something about it,
Yeah.
A lot of comedy rooms are.
Yeah, it's like.
Isn't that the one that moved from New York to Austin though? Not that bad.
Yeah, it is. It started in New York.
Yeah, and
that's the biggest room outside of like the Vulcan Theater or whatever it is where Kill Tony does his podcast. And
well, Hans Kim does his show there, and then there's been some specials filmed there or whatever, and a lot of the guys that live there and the bigger guys, they that's where they use that room to get ready for bigger shows and stuff like that. But it's a small little intimate room. It's kind of sexy. You can't see the crowd at all. real bright lights, but a funky little green room and a really cool little courtyard out back. It's pretty neat. It's pretty.
Oh, the creek in the cave is what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah. All right. So, what has been your favorite moment since you've been a comedian?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I hate to say my favorite moments behind me but like I've had a couple really good ones. But I think my favorite was when Pam Bruno, who was very well known in South Florida for a while, and she kind of I tell you what, I attribute a lot of how good of my comedy and my early on success to Pam, because I did a show that with her early on, that very first Jackie Sanchez backstage showcase, and Pam Bruno headlined it, and she loved me and she took me under her wing and she made me her feature for her one woman show and everything, and it was great. So, yeah, and then so we started a little mini tour, and it was me, Shayna Manuel. I don't know if you remember her. She moved out.
She was solid, yeah.
Yeah, she moved out to California.
No, Orlando.
What's that?
She moved to Orlando.
Did she? I thought she moved out to Cali.
No.
Oh no, that's right. Never mind.
Why would anybody move to
I'm getting
California
my
right now?
I'm getting my lesbians mixed up. That was Casey who moved out there. But and then it was at the time, I'm not dead naming anyone, I promise, but at the time Brett Lowenstein, now Naomi, was on the tour as well, and it was and we did the Palm Beach Improv, and I got to headline, and it was in front of it was a pretty packed crowd, and it was a really special night. A lot of people came out to support us and support me.
You got to headline at the Improv?
Yeah, wow. And it was pretty neat. It was a good night. It was yeah. And I went up there, and it was the first time I had ever done time like that. I did 30 minutes, and I had only been doing comedy like a year, and I went up there and I had a really strong set, and it was really fun. And that was like my first big moment where I was like, I think I could do this, for a living. It was like, all the doubt and everything like that, was always there. But that was the first time where I was like, all right, man, you can do this. I mean, obviously it's at the Improv.
That's really good for a year, being able to headline at the Improv. So
it's not like it was a weekend show or anything. It's not like I'm not gonna.
Still, no. I mean, it took me a while before I even got booked at the Improv, like maybe 2 years. So what has been your biggest challenge?
Besides, well, I'll tell you, having kids, and I have my kids 50% of the time, and I'm not just, what I mean? I try not to do shows when I have the kids. The only time I do shows is if it's a good show, good book show, good, whatever like that. And then my parents will watch them or whatever. But so half the time I'm unavailable. So I have to say no to a lot of shows. I have to turn down some good opportunities. It's hard. I can't go out on the road. I can't go do like little tours and stuff like that and go out for 3 weeks at a time and travel, because I got to be back for my boys. So that I would say is my biggest obstacle right now. So I'm just, but I've kind of, it used to really bug me, but now I've just kind of submitted to it, and I'm like, listen, man, kids are going to get older eventually, and I'll be able to go out on the road, in a few years and do things, and start really racking up the miles out there, which is what I want to do. But for now,
I know kids, they're probably going to want you to go out on the road.
Yeah, no shit, right? I can stay home all weekend, Dad. All right, cool.
I'll be so happy when you're gone.
Yeah. So I'm just going to get as good as I can while I can. And that way, when it's time, I'm super ready, and I'll have a bunch of material to be able to take out on the road and really, really play with and do stuff like that. So I think that's been my biggest, that. And I look the way I look. So I look like a complete, everybody hates me right away on stage when I walk out there. So I have to earn their love. I have to, because they root against me right when I walk out there.
Yeah, I'm sure but you earn their love though. So tell us a little bit about who you are as a person. We know you're a dad. Where are you from?
Complete scumbag.
What do you do for work? Do you have any projects?
I'm from Chicago originally, but went to middle school, high school, and everything down in Florida. Then joined the military. I was in the Air Force for 7.5 years.
Thank you for your service.
Shucks. Came back to Florida in 2013. Met some wild Bostonian girl, knocked her up, after knowing her for only 3 months, and then ended up in a whirlwind of a relationship for 7 years, and had 2 kids out of it though, and that's they're the best thing ever. But yeah, so I'm a dad. I also comedy's my number one passion, but that's something else that I do is I compete in amateur mixed martial arts. So I every now and again I compete in the cage, and I love it. I love trainings and I love competing, and it kind of scratches that itch for me. No illusions of grandeur. I'm not that good. Just keeps me in shape and allows me to compete and train, and I love it. And then yeah, I've gotten a lot of cool opportunities throughout my life as far as performing goes. Through the Air Force, I facilitated through the Air Force 2 years that I was in. I was an entertainer for the Air Force, so I got to sing and perform around the world. We went on 2 world tours, and in 2006, 2009. So I got to do that and travel around.
Comedy connection. There's so many comedians that used to do music, like Terry.
Yeah. But so that was cool. That was a really really sharpened my blade as far as my confidence on stage. That's where it all comes from, just because I've been on stage for so long that I'm really comfortable up there. I love it. So this is weird. I hate talking about myself.
Do you have any podcasts, any show like rooms, any shows that you produce or anything?
Yeah. Well, Stephanie Wood and I and Lalo Rodriguez as well. We have South Florida Comedy that we run, and there were a lot more rooms, but recently we're kind of refocusing. But we still have at the end of last Saturday of every month, we have at the Rootery Fava Bar up in downtown Fort Pierce. It's a really cool show up there. We put on every last Saturday of the month. And this month we have, which is on the 28th. Who do we have this month? Goddamn. Sorry, I have the next 3 months booked out, so I'm trying to remember who this month is. It's Nico Prada, and shit. Never mind. I shouldn't have started saying this. I have to look at my.
Well, Rooted Kava. In a minute, you can give everybody your socials so that they can follow you and find out. So tell me, are you ready to play the blame game?
Sure.
All right, Rob, you physically hurt yourself performing comedy. Who's to blame?
Yeah. Me, 100% me.
Tell us about it.
I'm an idiot. I'm 39 years old, and I forget that sometimes. Yeah, I was doing Anna Lepley, who's one of my favorite people in the world in comedy, and she does a traveling comedy drag show that she takes around the country, and she gets local comedians to do comedy and drag. You do a whole character. It's a real wild, fun night.
I saw it happen, so yeah.
It's a wild night, and
I've done it.
Yeah.
I'm an ugly woman. I know that.
I am atrocious. I actually go as Anna's straight twin sister, Roberta Lepley. That's who I go as. So I dress like Anna, but so I was giving a gentleman a lap dance while dressed as a woman, and in the first 30 seconds, the very first move I did, I leapfrogged over his shoulders and landed wrong and tore my ACL in half, tore my meniscus, and then kept going. And I was just basically finished the dance, and then like an idiot threw this guy over my shoulder, thinking maybe my knee wasn't as bad, and collapsed it like a red Solo cup. If you were like, and this guy was like. It's Steve Lamb's daughter's boyfriend. The guy was like 270. I was a freaking idiot. And
I didn't know it was her boyfriend.
I didn't either. I didn't either until afterwards. And then spent the next 45 minutes on stage in a thong with ice pack on my knee while we finished the show. And that was how I tore my ACL. Nothing cool. Nothing. No combat veteran or MMA related injury. Just the average run-of-the-mill lap dance.
You're dedicated. Yeah. I like it.
Now I've heard when you tear these kind of things, there's really not actually much pain. It's just useless. It just doesn't work anymore.
So initially, when I first tore it, I knew I hurt it, but you're right. It wasn't a lot of pain. However, about 30 minutes later, immense amounts of pain, because that's where the swelling comes in, and there's so much swelling, so it's so painful. Then. That night and the next morning, I mean, it was unbearable pain. It was just unreal. Because I tore my meniscus. I tore my meniscus. I tore my completely tore my ACL. My MCL was sprained. Like there was a slew of other sprains and twists, and it was mangled. But I got surgery back in November, so I'm recovering. It's getting better and better a little bit by a little bit, but I'm really physical. I'm doing a lot of physical therapy, but I'm hoping to fight next November.
Do you want to give out your socials? Do you have any upcoming shows you want people to come out and catch you at?
Yeah, I'm out all weekend. Where am I at this weekend? I'm down in, probably should have wrote a list down. This is me. This is Robb Kalert in a nutshell, everybody. ADD riddled and completely unprepared always. But I will put on a good show for you if you book me. I'm at the Sunrise Theater this weekend. I believe that's Saturday. And I think that's my only show this weekend. I'm on another show on Friday, but then the following weekend, I'm down in Miami on Raul Perez's show down there at the Blue Martini, and as well as just you'll see it on my social media. Yeah, just follow Robb Kalert on any of them. If you go to YouTube, if you go to Instagram, if you go to Facebook.
I think you need to spell your name because it's spelled a little different.
I know. I'm going to spell it right now because even the posters that people are making, including some of the ones that I just said, misspell my name every time. That's Robb with 2 B's, R-O-B-B, and then Kalert with a K, K-A-L-E-R-T. So Robb Kalert. And yeah, I'm always posting my shows. I'm always posting where I'm going to be. I post silly videos. I post way too many pictures of my kids for somebody who's trying to make it in the entertainment business. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. All right. I guess that means it's time for Terry Wayne's words for white people. What you got, Terry?
This week it's going to be change, right? Now, this could be words for all people, but I feel like it really affects, especially like the, middle income honkies more than anybody else, which is, I'm a guy that doesn't like change. I like when things stay the same. I like to just get in a good place and then just be there. I used to like change, but I think the older I've gotten, the more I just like things to stay the same. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people are alone in that, or aren't alone in that, because I've noticed how the older, especially men get, they kind of get complacent. They kind of just like things right where they are. And they don't like change. And I think that informs a lot of their beliefs as well, especially a lot of their political beliefs. A lot of people say, there's an old adage that says, if you're doing things right, you should be liberal when you're young and conservative when you're old. I don't think that necessarily needs to be the case, just because, even when you're older, you should embrace change in your life, change in your opinions, change in the way you look at things, because that's how, I believe, at least that's how you get to be a grumpy old man, is you stop changing and the world keeps going. The world keeps changing around you. So then everything seems scary and different. And then when I was a kid, and that's when all that shit starts. So I feel like right now at 41, I'm really resisting that. I'm really having to resist getting so complacent that everything seems dumb and stupid and crazy. So I'm really trying to resist that. I mean, that's part of the reason, for the move is just, I need a different environment, I think, and just need to change myself and not be so worried about it. So if I had to give advice to anybody, it would be like, never stop changing. It doesn't mean you have to move. It doesn't mean, sometimes it just means picking up a new hobby, or sometimes it means getting outside your comfort zone. But the more that I'm facing a lot of changes in my life right now, and the more that I'm facing them, the more anxiety it's giving me and the more stressed out I feel. And so I have to literally just stop myself probably at least once a day and just go, this is good. This is a good thing. This is what life's about. It's about new adventures. It's about tackling new things. But the fact that I have to give myself that pep talk is really concerning to me, because that never used to be the case. That never used to be the case with me. But now it is. And you know what? That's changed too. So I'm trying my best to just roll with it and just keep those wheels turning, because, a rolling stone gathers no moss, and I'm trying my very, very best at this age to not gather as much moss as I could at least. So go out and change something.
All right.
Rock and roll, Terry.
Rock
I
and
love it.
roll.
I love it.
It's
Mossy
nails
Rock.
on a chalkboard.
Mossy Rock. Mossy Rock.
I like that
All right.
speech. I like your speech just now. It was I totally identify too as a youngster and conservative as when you get older or whatever, because that's what's happening to me. And I'm the same way. I try to stay as open as possible, but I am just like
Well, you can't help it because I mean, like even
like
me,
pronouns,
as
bathroom.
liberal as I
yeah, I
am,
know.
like
I'm
this, you know what?
close to getting into Yellowstone. I you know what I mean?
Great
Like-
show, by the way. I'm
As
all in.
liberal-
See, I knew it. It's just old man porn is all that is.
It's
as
great.
liberal as I
It's so
am,
good.
guys-
You'll love it, Terry. You'll love it.
I won't, because
I'll just be
I've seen the
conservative
clips.
and not
I've seen the
talk like
reels.
women. Conservatives expect women to do.
No, that's just look.
Now I can't even remember what I was gonna say. No,
uh,
it was something about the Idaho murders.
Of course it is.
God,
Yeah,
Terry, do you
well.
have any shows coming up this week?
I do. I have one with you on Saturday in Punta Gorda, but it's a private show, so I don't even know why I'm mentioning.
Fancy.
Oh, it is a private show. That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you guys
So-
But
like
it's still
private
be
shows?
fun. Drive over
Yeah.
there and
I don't know how you
No.
get into it, but I guess you can't see us in Punta. But anyway, we Friday you can catch me. I'm only mentioning this because it's my girl Izzy Lacus's birthday. She has a open mic starting this Friday. It's gonna be at the Peach at 7, and then I have a show at Kelly Brothers later, I think 9 or 10 for pop off. So you already follow me, just check my socials for those flyers, and hopefully some of y'all will come out. I guess until then, till next time, till next week, we'll see y'all later. See you here.
I'll have facial
Hey, thanks
hair.
for having me, guys. I appreciate it. This is fun.